Today we're going to work at the work of Jack Kirby. Now, Jack Kirby was one of my favorite comic book artists. He's pretty influential in my childhood. I read a lot of comic books. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some of these pictures here, and then we're going to go in and we're going to talk about drawing superheroes or other people in an illustrative manner, right? So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to find yourself a couple of subjects. So, or just one's fine, but you want to work from one of your toys, and that way you can figure out the size your people are supposed to be, right? Now I'm trying to draw both of these at the same time, and I'm going to end up at first starting to draw just Captain Marvel, and then I kind of realized that making you sit here and watch me do two drawings from beginning to end, even if I speed it up to twice as fast, is going to take a long time. So I end up going half and half. Now the first thing you want to do is identify the shape of your body. So you can see here, Power Ranger's going to have this long trapezoid with it's wider on the top than the bottom, and Captain Marvel is going to have this kind of figure 80 shape. So I start with that, and then later I change half of it to be the more trapezoid shape. Right? Now you don't have to nail the shapes perfect. I just want you guys to do an effort at seeing it and then trying to convey it over so that your drawing takes up quite a bit of space. Right? We all have a tendency to condense our drawings down into a size that's more manageable for us, and it's hard to kind of expand it into filling up the space that we have. So take your time, look at your subject that you're drawing, and try to translate that over. You can see I measured the arm using the pencil, and then this is where I decide to do both at the same time, so that way you guys can see both shapes. I reshape my torso, and then start on the broader, more pointy shoulder. Now, you guys don't have to draw the same superhero that you're looking at for your toy. You can draw pretty much whatever character you want. And I do that. I change the superhero to something else, and I keep I change the man side to something else, and I keep Captain Marvel, but it can be either way. Again, just identifying a shape, translating it over, doing my best to draw it out. And I'm not focused in on my details right now. I'm just trying to get the shapes down, and then I'm going to go back later and put in my details. So this is where I'm going back in to put my details in, and I'm going to just take my time, and I'm going to bounce around and try and fill in details however is comfortable for me. So I'm going to start with my hair, and then I'm going to go into the face, and then I'm going to start making the little shapes that I need to make things look, I don't know, correct, if you would. But again, it's largely a stylistic endeavor. So a lot of the details that you're going to share are just places where there's shadows, right? So I'm not going to sit there and draw every tiny little aspect of their noses. It just wouldn't make sense to focus on that. So I'm going to put a little shadow where the nose is, and then I'm going to move on to the rest of the more interesting parts of the drawing. I've sped up my hands here a little bit just to kind of make this go faster. And if at any point you get like super bored watching and you want to move on and start just working on your own, that's fine too. Okay, so what I'm doing here now is I'm drawing in where some of my shadows are going to go. And then what I'm going to do is called inking it, right? Now we do this a lot with different Sharpies and things, but this is where it originated for me, is looking at comic books, because that's the illustrative method for the comic books is they draw it, they ink it, they color it, right? And so when I'm doing this right now, I'm going over it with just a ballpoint pen, and I'm catching all my dark lines. That way they show up nice. And then what I'll do after that is I'm going to take a Sharpie and go back in for where there's a big black space, so I don't have to sit there with a pen and fill it in with a bunch of little hash marks. I can just go and take the marker and lay over a nice dark tone. And if you forgot to draw anything when you were doing details, like I kind of forgot the details for this boot, I can just add them right in with the pen as I'm going. You don't need to get the pencil back out and try it again. It's okay to do like quick edits while you're working through. Before you start in with the Sharpie, I want you to make sure you take a second and think about what lines and areas you want really dark, because there's no going back from Sharpie. Once you put it down, it's there for good. So what you want to do is just target areas where you're absolutely certain you want your shadows to be. So I come in and I'm just lightly putting in darker lines where I think there needs to be more shadow, and then filling in spaces that I know would be really dark. Right? So sides around the edges, things that hang over, stuff like that. Once I'm done inking all my dark spaces that I feel need to be inked, what I'm going to do is get my watercolors out and I'm going to paint this in. Now, when I start doing that, it's important to use as little watercolor as you can. You don't want to soak this thing in watercolor paints because we want to make these watercolors last. So I'm just using a very little bit of color and I'm spreading it out with a lot of water, and that's going to help me get the colors that I need where I want them, but at the same time not completely exhaust my supplies of watercolors. Okay, take your time with this, don't rush, and just color these in nicely. Now if you're really not feeling watercolors, it's okay to use your colored pencils to color this in, that's fine too. All right, good luck, take your time, and make these awesome. All right, have fun.